Continuing Chapter 8, Cabalistical Magic. I say that men do oftentimes wonderful things, even as by the instruction of men. Some beasts which are most nigh to us, apes, dogs, elephants, do often strange things above their species, and they who have written the chronicles of the Danes and Norwegians do testify that spirits of several kinds in those regions are subject to men's commands. Moreover, some of these appear corporeal and mortal, whose bodies are begotten and die. Yet, to be long-lived is the sacred teachings of the lamas and yogis, and especially approved by Buxazin, Mazdinba also, and Demetrius, the philosopher, and Ximandbas, the rhetorician, affirm the same. Therefore, of these spirits of the third kind, as the teachings of the depths is, they report that there are so many legions as there are stars in the heaven, and so many spirits in every legion as in the heaven itself stars. But there are, as Athanasius delivers, who think that the true number of good spirits is according to the number of men, 99 parts according to the parable of the 100 sheep. Others think only 9 parts according to the parable of the 10 goats. Others suppose the number of angels equal with men, because it is written, He hath appointed the bounds of the people according to the number of the angels of God. And concerning their number may have written many things, but the latter theologians follow the masters of the sentences. Austin and Gregory easily resolve themselves, saying, the number of the good angels transcendeth human capacity, to the which, on the contrary, innumerable unclean spirits do correspond, there being so many in the inferior world as pure spirits in the superior, and some divines affirm that they have received this by revelation. Under these they place a kind of spirits, subterraneous or obscure, which the adepts call spirits that failed, revengers of wickedness and ungodliness, according to the degree of the divine justice, and they call them evil angels and wicked spirits, because they often annoy and hurt, even of their own accord. Of these also they reckon more legions, and in like manner distinguishing them according to the names of the stars and elements and parts of the world. They place over them kings, princes, and rulers, and the names of them. Of these, foremost mischievous kings rule over the other, according to the 4 parts of the world. Well, is it they that have came up with this hierarchical order? Is that the implication? Under these, many more princes of legions govern, and many private offices. Hence, the Gorgons, State Nuct, the Furies, hence Tisiphone, Alecto, Mogoera, Cerberus. They of this kind of spirits inhabit a place nigh the earth, yea, within the earth itself. There is no mischief which they dare not commit. They have altogether a violent and hurtful nature. Therefore they plot and endeavor violent and sudden mischiefs. And when they make incursions, sometimes they lay hid, and sometimes after open violence, and are very much delighted in all such things done wickedly and mischievously. Evil spirits. There are some, but those aren't the evil spirits? Well, of course, evil spirits are ones that have made that choice, right? There are some of the school of theologians who distribute the evil spirits into 9 degrees, as contrary to the 9 orders of angels. Therefore, the first of these, which are called false gods, who usurping the name of God, would be worshipped for gods, and require sacrifices and adorations, as that devil who said to Christ, If thou wilt fall down and worship me, I will give thee all these things, showing him and all kingdoms of the world. And the prince of these is he who said, I will ascend above the height of the clouds, and will be like to the Most High, who is called Beelzebub, that is, an old god. Well, the Golden Lord, basically, is the phrase, right? And, one way of translating that. In the second place, and yes, I know Zabul is of copulation and yeah, but anyways. In second place, follow the spirit of lies, of which sort was he who went forth, and was a lying spirit in the mouth of the prophet of Ahab. And the prince of these is the serpent Pytho, from whence Apollo is called Pythias, and that woman a Pythoness, or witch, in Samuel, and others in the gospel, who had Pytho in her belly. Therefore these kinds of devils join themselves to the oracles, and delude men by divinations and predictions, so that they may be deceived. And the third order are the vessels of iniquity, which are called vessels of wrath. These are the inventors of evil things, and all wicked arts, as in Plato, that devil Theutus, who taught cards and dice. For all wickedness, malice, and deformity proceeds from these, of which, in Genesis, in the benedictions of Simeon and Levi, Jacob said, vessels of iniquity are in their habitations. Into their council, let not my soul come, which the psalmist calls vessels of death. Isaiah, vessels of fury, and Jeremiah, vessels of wrath. Ezekiel, vessels of destroying and slaying, and the prince is Belial, which signifies without a yoke. Well, without as in worthless, not without as in doesn't have, y'all, but like nothing. But nothing in a way of like less than just being without. Because there is a term for nothing being there. And it doesn't translate right over that. But anyways, and disobedient, a prevaricator and an apostate, of whom Paul of Corinthians says, what agreement has Christ with Belial? Fourthly, follow the revengers of evil, and their prince is Asmodeus, these causing judgment. Ashmodi, fiery judgment, more like it. After these, in the fifth place, come the deluders, who imitate miracles, and serve conjurers and witches, and seduce the people by their miracles, as the serpent seduced Eve, and their prince is Satan, of whom it is written in the Revelation, that he seduces the whole world, doing great signs and causing fire to descend from heaven in the sight of men, seducing the inhabitants of the earth by these signs, which are given him to do. Sixthly, the aerial powers offer themselves and join themselves to thunder and lightning, corrupting the air, causing pestilences and other evils, in the number of which are the four angels of whom the Revelations speak, to whom it is given to hurt the earth and the sea, holding the four winds from the four corners of the earth, and their prince is called Meririne. He is the meridian devil, a boiling spirit, a devil in the south, and Paul to the Ephesians calls the prince of the power of the air, and the spirit which works in the children of disobedience. Now, what if it's that these entities don't do these things in the physical world, but are spiritual realities that attach themselves to the occurrence of such, are the mental or spiritual longing or identifying with such among the human beings. The seventh mansion the Furies possess, who the powers of evil, discords, war, and devastation, whose name in the Revelation is called in Greek Apollon, in the Hebrew Abaddon, that is, destroying and wasting. Abaddon, or Abaddon, or depending on whether you want to use the wow in it. Well, in Aramea, Hebrew is the later language, so that is destroying and wasting. It's the below in the pentagram, right? The cosmological placement of these things, not that, oh, the angels and the demons of these directions. No, I don't. That's not what I'm saying in those rituals. In 8th place are the accusers, are inquisitors, whose prince is Astaroth, that is, a searcher out. In the Greek language, he is called Diabolos, that is, an accuser or calumniator, which in the Revelation is called the accuser of the brethren, accusing them night and day before the face of God. Yeah, that doesn't really relate to Astarte too much, right? But a lot of these things are getting jumbled, and drug use, astrology, some stuff like that, but not ritual sex, but deity of the courts, not so much, or something called the deity of the courts. Moreover, the tempters and ensnarers have the last place, one of which is present with every man, which we call the evil genius, and their prince is Mammon, which is interpreted covetousness. But we of the Kabbalah unanimously maintain that evil spirits do wander up and down this inferior world, enraged against all whom we call devils, of whom Austin, in his first book of the Incarnation of the World, to Genuarius, says, accordingly, the devils and his angels contrary to virtues. The ecclesiastical preachers have taught, well, devils are entities that choose to be devils, but an angel is a different type of angel that fell in the first place. It's not the same as the other type, so it's easier to figure out. The ecclesiastical preachers have taught that there are such things, but what they are and who they are, he has not clear enough expounded. Yet there is in this opinion among them that this devil was an angel, and being made an apostate, persuaded many of the angels to fall with him, who to this day are called his angels. Well, in Greek, there's where some of the confusion starts. Not Greece, notwithstanding, thinks not that these are damned, nor that they are purposely evil, but that from the creation of the world, the dispensation of things is ordained by this means, that the tormenting of sinful souls is made over to them, which is not part of the biblical doctrine. So, but a lot of the stuff in the stories of heaven and hell that people talk about isn't really related to any scripture. It's just, one of the things people rumor. The other theologians say that no devil was created evil, but they were driven and cast out of heaven from the orders of good angels for their pride. Something to warn you about the whole pride thing. Well, I mean, it's even broader than that, but whose fall not only are and the Hebrew theologians, but also the Assyrians, Arabians, Egyptians, and Greeks to confirm by their tenets. Pharikias, the Assyrian, describes the fall of the devils, and Apis, that is, the devilish serpent, was the head of that rebelling army. Trismegistus sings of the same fall in his Pimander, and Homer, under the name of Araras in his verses, and Plutarch in his discourse on usury, signifies that Empedocles knew that the fall of the devils was in this manner. The devils themselves often confess their fall, they being cast Into this valley of misery, some that are near to us wander up and down in their obscure error. Others inhabit lakes, rivers, and seas. Others the earth, and terrify earthly things, and invade those who dig wells and metals, because the gaping of the earth, to strike together the foundations of the mountains, and vex not only men, but also other creatures, some being content with laughter and delusion only, do contrive rather to weary men than to hurt them, some heightening themselves to the length of a giant's body, and again shrinking themselves down to the smallest of pygmies, and changing themselves into different forms to disturb men with vain fears. Others study lies and blasphemies, as we read of one in the 3rd book of Kings, saying, I will go forth and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets of Ahab. Which kind of warns you about having, the spiritual figures be for the king rather than, the thing about serving God, right? But you can't just be a prophet because you decide to be a prophet or you were trained to be a prophet by some spiritual order. That's not how it works. But the worst sort of devils are those who lie in wait and overthrow passengers in their journeys, and rejoice in wars and infusion of blood, and afflict men with most cruel stripes. We read of such in Matthew, for fear of whom no man dare pass that way. Moreover, the Scripture reckons up nocturnal, diurnal, and meridional devils, and describes other spirits of wickedness by different names, as we read of Isaiah of satyrs, screech owls, leaping, sirens, storks, owls, and in the Psalms of asps, balaks, lions, dragons. Well, what about the unicorns, right? Why skip over the unicorns? And in the Gospel, we read of scorpions and mammon, and the prince of this world, and the rulers of darkness, of all whom Beelzebub is the prince, whom the Scripture calls the prince of wickedness. It is the opinion of divines that all evil spirits are of that nature. They hate God as well as men. Therefore divine providence has set over us more pure spirits, with whom he hath entrusted us, as with shepherds and governors, that they should daily help us, and drive away evil spirits from us, and curb and restrain them, that they should not hurt us, as they would otherwise, as is read in Tobias, that Raphael did apprehend the demon called Asmodeus, and bound him in the wilderness of the Upper Egypt. Of these there are 30,000 of Jupiter's immortal spirits living on the earth, who are the keepers of mortal men, who, that they might observe justice and merciful deeds, have clothed themselves with air, go to and fro everywhere on the earth. For there is no potentate could be safe, nor any woman continues uncorrupted. No man in this veil of ignorance could come to the end appointed to him by God, if good spirits did not secure us, or if evil spirits should be permitted to satisfy the wills of men. As therefore among the good there is a proper keeper, or protector, deputed to every one, corroborating the spirit of the man to good, so of evil spirits there is sent forth an enemy ruling over the flesh and desire thereof, and the good spirit between these contenders is in the middle, and left in the hand of his own counsel, to whom he will give victory. We cannot therefore accuse angels or deny free will, if they do not bring the nations entrusted to them to the knowledge of the true God and true piety, but suffer them to fall in errors and perverse worship. It is to be imputed to themselves, who have of their own accord declined from the right path, adhering to the spirits of error, giving victory to the devil. For it is in the hand of man to adhere to whom he pleases, and overcome whom he will. For whom, if once the devil be overcome, he is made his servant, and being overcome cannot fight any more with another, as a wasp that has lost his sting, to which opinion Origen assents in his book Pariarchon, concluding that the saints fight against evil spirits, and overcoming do lessen their army. Neither can he that is overcome by any molest any more. well, so wonder why they had so much problems with the devils. They were practicing Goetti, and they were convinced that they had made these spirits do their bidding because they were such good Christians. And even I want to call up a demon, and then the demon's going to convert. I mean, how ridiculous is that one, right? And seeking out to do battle with them, it's like, no. You battle with your own, doing the best with what you can, and the temptation that comes to you, but you don't seek out the battle with the devils, or the interaction. As therefore there is given to every man a good spirit, so there is given to every man an evil, diabolical spirit, whereof each seeks in union with our spirit and endeavors to attract it to itself, and to be mixed with it as wine with water, the good indeed through all good works, conformable to itself, change us and angels by uniting us, as it is written of John the Baptist in Malachi, Behold, I send my angel before thy face, which transmutation and union it is written elsewhere, that he adheres to God is made one spirit with him, an evil spirit also, by evil works, studies to make us conformable to itself, and unite us, as Christ says of Judas, Have I not chosen 12, and one of you is a devil? And this is that which Hermes says, When a spirit hath an influence on the soul of man, he scatters the seed of his own notion, whence such a soul, being sown with seeds, and full of fury, brings forth thence wonderful things. And whatsoever are the offices of spirits, for when a good spirit hath influence on a holy soul, it does exalt it to the light of wisdom, but an evil spirit, being transfused into a wicked soul, doth stir it up to theft, to manslaughter, to lust. And whatsoever are the offices of evil spirits, good spirits, as Jamalicus says, purge the souls most perfectly, and some bestow upon us other good things. They being present, do give health to the body, virtue to the soul, and security. What is mortal in us, they take away. Cherish heat, and make it more efficacious to life, and by an harmony be always infuse light into an intelligible mind. But whether there be many keepers of a man, or one alone, theologians differ amongst themselves. We think there are more, the prophet saying, He hath given his angels a charge concerning thee, that they should keep thee in all thy ways. Which, as Jerome says, is to be understood by any man as well as of Christ. All men therefore are governed by the ministry of different angels, and are brought to any degree of virtue, deserts, and dignity, who behave themselves worthy of them. But they who carry themselves unworthy of them are disposed and thrust down, as well by evil spirits as good spirits, unto the lowest degree of misery, as their evil merits shall require. But they that are attributed to the sublimer angels are preferred before other men. For angels, having the care of them, exalt them, and subject others to them, by a certain occult power, which, although neither of them perceive, yet he that is subjected feels a certain yoke of presidency, over which he cannot easily quit himself. Yea, he fears and reverences that power, which the superior angels make to flow upon inferiors, and with a certain terror bring the inferiors into a fear of presidency. Is that really the way to start a relationship with these beings, is to make them afraid? If you can do that, because it's like, well, they have respite, so why would they be afraid of you? Thus did Homer seem to be sensible of when he says that the Muses begot of Jupiter did always, as inseparable companions, assist the kings begot of Jupiter, speaking figuratively, who by them were made venerable and magnificent. So we read that Antonius, being formerly joined in a singular friendship with Octavius Augustus, were accustomed always to play together, but when, as always, Augustus always went away conqueror, a certain magician counseled M. Antoninus thus, O Anthony, what dost thou do with that young man? Shun and avoid him, for although thou art older than he, and art more skilful than he, and are better descended than he, and hath endured the wars of more emperors, yet thy genius doth much dread the genius of this young man, and thy fortune flatters his fortune. Unless thou shalt shun him, it seems wholly to decline to him. Is not the prince like other men? How should other men fear and reverence him, unless a divine terror should exalt him, and striking a fear into others, depress them, that they should reverence him as a prince? Wherefore we must endeavor that, being purified by doing well, and following sublime things, and choosing opportune times and seasons, we, be entrusted, are committed to a degree of sublimer and more potent angels, who, taking care of us, we may deservedly be preferred before others. Every man hath a threefold good demon, daemon, not the same thing as demon in our way of thinking, as a proper keeper, our preserver, the one whereof is holy, another of the nativity, and the other of profession. The holy demon is one, according to the doctrine of the Egyptians, assigned to the rational soul, not from the stars or planets, but from a supernatural cause, from God himself, the president of demons being universal and above nature. This directs the life of the soul, and does always put good thoughts into the mind, being always active in illuminating us, although we do not always take notice of it. But when we are purified and live peaceably, then it is perceived by us. Then it does, as it were, speak with us, and communicates its voice to us, being before silent, and studies daily to bring us to a sacred perfection. So it falls out that some profit more in any science or art or office in a less time and with less pains, when another takes much pains and studies hard, and all in vain, although no science, art, or virtue is to be contemned, yet that you may live prosperously, carry on the affairs happily in the first place. Know thy good genius and his nature, and what good the celestial disposition promises thee, and God the distributor of all these, who distributes to each as he pleases, and follow the beginnings of these, profess these, be conversant in that virtue, to which the Most High Distributor doth elevate and lead thee, who made Abraham excel in justice and clemency, Isaac with fear, Jacob with strength, and Moses with meekness and miracles, Joshua in war, Phineas in zeal, David in religion and victory, Solomon in knowledge and fame, Peter in faith, John in charity, Jacob in devotion, Thomas in prudence, Magdalene in contemplation, Martha in officiousness. Therefore, in what virtue you think you could most easily be proficient in, use diligence to attain the height thereof, that you may excel in one, when in many you cannot, but in the rest endeavor to be as great a proficient as you can. But if thou shalt have the overseers of nature as religion agreeable, thou shalt find a double progress of thy nature and profession. But if they shall be disagreeing, follow the better, for thou shalt better perceive at some time a preserver of an excellent profession than of nativity, of the speeches of angels. And, that's sort of the idea with the Enochian, right? Celestial, Adamical, angelic speech. Enochian wasn't what it was called by John D. and Edward Kelly, although it represents that, so I understand that label, and I've used that label. You may doubt whether angels or demons, since they are pure spirits, use any vocal speech or tongue among themselves or to us, but that Paul in some places says, if I speak with the tongue of astral spirits, But what their speech or tongue is much doubted by many. For many think that if they use any idiom, it is Hebrew, because that was first of all. And no, Hebrew wasn't even a language during the time of Jesus, and came from heaven, and was before confusion of languages in Babylon, in which the law was given by God the Father, and the gospel was preached by Christ the Son. So many oracles, well, no, it would have been Aramaic. Aramea is how he spelled the thing, but, And so many oracles were given to the prophets by the Holy Ghost, and seeing all tongues have and do undergo various mutations and corruptions, this alone does always continue inviolated. Moreover, an evident sign of this opinion is that though this demon and intelligence do use the speech of those nations with whom they do inhabit, yet to them who understand it, they never speak in any idiom, but in this alone, viz. Hebrew. Which also warns you, when you have a so-called sacred language, the demons are going to use that so-called sacred language too, so that doesn't prove any validity of anything that... But now, how angels speak, it is not hid from us, as it is from thee. Well, I mean, if it's a valid communication, it's a valid communication, but you know what I mean, it's not the same as is from thee. It's not as if it's the same as being from God, just because it's in one language or another. Now to us, that we may speak a tongue is necessary, with other instruments, as the jaws, palate, lips, teeth, throat, lungs, the aspera, arteria, and muscles of the breast, which have the beginning of motion from the soul. But if I speak at a distance to another, he must use the louder voice. But if near, he whispers in my ear. And if he should be coupled to the hearer without any noise, as an image in the eye or glass, so souls going out of the body, so angels, so demons speak. And what man does with a sensible voice, they do by impressing the conception of the speech in those to whom they speak after a better manner than if they should express it in an audible voice. So the disciple sees with a spiritual eye, not by his outer eye, so that Socrates perceived indeed, but not of this body, but by the sense of the astral body, concealed in this, after which manner I say unto you, angels were wont to be seen and heard by the prophets, that instrument, whatsoever the virtue be, by which one spirit makes known to another spirit what things are in his mind, is called by the Hindu adepts the tongue of angels. Yet oftentimes they send forth an audible voice, as they that cried at the ascension of the Lord. Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye here, gazing into the heavens? And in the old law they spake with diverse of the fathers, with a sensible voice. But this never, but when they assumed bodies. But these spirits and demons heard our invocations and prayers, and see our ceremonies with the spiritual eye. And what if the whole thing about the ascension and the spirits crying out was that they knew that they lost their opportunity to kill Jesus and end his mission with that doubt, right? Of course, the idea of Jesus being killed proliferated. For there is a spiritual body of demons, everywhere sensible by nature, so that it touches, sees, hears without any medium. Nothing can be an impediment to it, yet they do not perceive after the same manner as we do, with different organs, but happily as sponges drink in water. So do they, all sensible things with their body in some way, not unknown to us. Neither are all animals endowed with these organs, for we know that many want ears, yet we know they perceive a sound. Names spirits. They tend to mean something. They tend to be formulas of one sense or another too. Same thing with names of the heavens and names of deity and, Many and different are the names of good and bad spirits, but their proper and true names, as those of the stars, are known to the adept who only numbers the multitude of stars and calls them by their names, whereof none can be known to us, but by divine revelation. Very few are expressed to us in sacred writ, but the masters of the masters know that the names of angels are imposed on them by Adam, according to that which is written, The Lord brought all things which he made unto Adam, that he should name them. And as he called anything, so the name of it was. And, of course, Lord, we mean Yahweh, which does not translate as Lord. But, the Christians want to cause that confusion with Jesus. And, of course, Curie is not that type of Lord, but, like spiritual master, really, in the context. So nobody would have thought anything about that. Hence, the Hebrew Mekubal think together with the magicians and Kabbalists. Okay, that's not even the right plural. Mekabalim, that it is in the power of man to impose names upon spirits, but of such a man only who is dignified and elevated to this virtue by some divine gift or sacred authority, but because a name that may express the nature of divinity or the whole virtue of angelic essences cannot be made by any human voice. Therefore names, for the most part, are put upon them from their works, signifying some certain office or effect which is required by the choir of spirits, which name then, and not otherwise, obtains efficacy and virtue to draw any spiritual substance from above or beneath to make any desired effect. Well, the Golden Dawn operated like this too. They had this idea that rather than just directly praying to God and evoking yourself as you evoke and invoke deity, that you go through the specific angels and hierarchies and, get things done that way. I have made, in some writing on virgin parchment, the name and seal of a spirit in the hour of the moon, which afterwards I gave to be devoured by water frog, and had muttered over some verse, the frog being let go into the water. Rains and showers presently followed. I have also inscribed the name of another spirit with the seal thereof in the hour of Mars, which was given to a crow, who being let go after a verse muttered over, there followed from that part of the heaven, whither it flew, lightnings, shaking, and horrible thunders, with thick clouds. Neither were those names of spirits of an unknown tongue, neither did they signify anything else, but their offices of this kind are the names of those angels, Raziel, Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, Haniel, which is as much to say the vision of God, the virtue of God, the strength of God, the medicine of God, the glory of God. And in like manner, in the offices of evil demons are read their names, viz., a player, a deceiver, a dreamer, a fornicator, and many such like. Well, obviously a player as in somebody who does things for mere entertainment. They play games and all that. So you receive, not the thing towards them. So you receive from many of the ancient fathers of the depths the names of angels, set over planets and signs, over Saturn, Zaphiel, over Jupiter, Zadkiel over Mars, Kamael over the Sun, Raphael over Venus, Haniel over Mercury, Michael over the Moon, Gabriel. These are those 7 spirits which always stand before the face of God, to whom is entrusted the disposing of the whole celestial and terrene kingdoms which are under the moon. For those, as more curious theologians say, govern all things by a certain vicissitude of hours, days, and years, as the astrologers teach concerning the planets which they are set over, the Kakuzuima, Munkin, Kisamaji names the 7 governors of the world, who by the heavens as instruments distribute the influences of all the stars and signs upon their inferiors, which that sort of septenary system is, or heptarchy is based on the Yazidi thing. Yes, they were where reincarnation and some other ideas came to what we call the Hindus. There are some who ascribe them to the stars by names somewhat differing, saying that over Saturn is set an intelligence called Raphael over Jupiter, Zachariel over Mars, Samael over the Sun, Michael over Venus, Anael over Mercury, Raphael over the Moon, Gabriel. And every one of these governs the world 354 years and 4 months, and the government begins from the intelligence of Saturn, afterwards in order the intelligences of Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, and the Moon, and the Sun reign, and the government returns to the spirit of Saturn. Kuku-Zuima, Munkin Samaji write a special treatise concerning these, which he that can thoroughly examine may from thence draw great knowledge of future events. Over the 12 signs are set these, viz. Over Aries, Malahiddael over Taurus, Ashmodel over Gemini, Ambriel over Cancer, Muriel over Leo, Vertiel over Virgo, Hamaliel. Now, is it Jamalal? But, is it really? Probably Wark all. But anyways, no V sign if you take it before Hebrew, sound if you take it before Hebrew to the biblical speak. But over Libra, Zuriel, over Scorpio, Barkiel over Sagittarius, Avakiel over Libra, Zuriel over Scorpio, Barkiel over Sagittarius, Advachiel over Capricorn, Hanael over Aquarius, Cambiel over Pisces, Barkiel. Of these spirits, set over the planets and signs, John made mention of in his revelation, speaking of the former in the beginning, and the 7 spirits which are in the presence of the throne of God, which I find are set over the 7 planets in the end of the book, where he describes the platform of the heavenly city, saying that on 12 gates thereof are 12 angels. There are, again, 28 angels who rule in the 28 mansions of the moon, whose names are these: Geniel, Enadiel, Enekiel. There's no X, but it would have been just plain K, right? Azariel, Gabriel, Derakiel, Sheliel, Amnediel, Barbiel, Ardephiel, Nekiel, Evdebuel, Jazriel, no J sound, so Yisrael, Ergediel, Etliel, Ezruel, Adriel, Agebiel, Amuliel, Kyriel. Is it just a W? Just a W? Grual, Beth, Nael, and usually the TH is just plain T when you look at it in the biblical language, rather than Hebrew. Geliel, Rekiel, Ebrinael, Aziel, Tagriel, Atheniel, Emnikiel. Well, there's plenty of Hebrew, there's plenty of Hindu languages, terms, and cosmology that he could be going into. So is he just relating the Eastern tradition of the Western tradition? For the most part, yeah, a lot of this is just relating that. There are also 4 princes of the angels, which are set over the 4 winds and over the 4 parts of the world. Michael is placed over the east wind, Raphael over the west, Gabriel over the north, Nariel, who by some is called Ariel, over the south, and they're also assigned to the elements, these to the air cherub, and the water Tharses, to the earth Ariel, to the fire Seraph. Now, every one of these spirits is a great prince, and has much power and freedom in the dominion of his own planets and signs, and in their times, years, months, days, and hours, and in their elements and parts of the world and winds. And we have a chart here, the Kabbalah showing at one time the 72 angels belonging to the names of God of the Shemhem Forash. So we have a balancing of the Behuiah, Eliel, Sitael, Elemiah, Nahasiah, Ladahel, Ashaiah, Kehathiel, Haziel, Eladiah, Lawiah, Haiah, Azel, Nabahel, Hariel, Hakemiah, Leviah, Kaliel, Lawiah, Nahaliel, Nelahal, Eial, Melahel, Hahuiah, Nethaiah, Ha'ayah, Irithel, Sithiah, Raiel, Amaiel, Lekabel, Visaria, Jehuiah, Lahahiah, Chabakiah, Menadel, Aniel, Ha'amiah, Rahael, Ehiazel, Hahael, Mikael, Vivalia, El Ahia, Celia, Ariel, Azalea, Nahael, Behuel, Daniel, Zia, what's that supposed to be? I see with the Hebrew letters, but I'll get into that next. Anamia, Nanael, Nethael, Mabahia, Poiel, Namamaya, Eilael, Harael, Mizrael, Umabel. Was it Mitzral? It's like Egypt? Egypt of God? Okay. Umabel after that. Eahel. And Uel. Nahekiel. Demabia. Meniol. Il. Habuia. Rokel. Ilbamia. Hey, A.L. Numia. Now some of those, as we're going to see, how in the world did they arrive at that, right? It just doesn't make sense. Wahuya, Yalial, Sethal, Alamya, Mahashya, Lilhal, Ahahya, Ketol, Hezyal, Aldya, Lauya, Hehaya, Leal-al, Maba'al, Hurry-al, Haqiya, Lauya, Cleal, Liwia, Pahoya, Not-al, Yiyal, Mulhal, Heh, Yia, Natahya, Ha, Ha, uh, Ha, Iya, Yurtal, Shahya, Riyal, Almal, Lakabal, Washerya, Yahiya, Lahudyal. Is it Lahud or her? Lahud, it looks like, right? That's supposed to be hey. Lehya. Kupal. Kukya. 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 Okay. Mundal. Anial. Chamya. Rahayal. Yeal. Hehal. Meetal. Wowliya. Yohya. Salya. Arial. Ashlaya. Muhal. Wuhual. Danial. Hashya. Amya. Nanal. Neetal. Mabahya. Payal. Wamya. Yelal. Herhal. Mutral. Wumdal. Yahal. Anual. Mahakal. Dumbya. Manial. Ayal. Hekual. Rahal. Yabamya. Niyal. Mumya.